day. I'm Peggy Carr. I'm a Vincentian writer, poet, and journalist based in Taiwan. As part of this program's celebration of Heritage Month, I'm pleased to present an excerpt from my novel Shape of a Warrior and to read a poem from my poetry collection Honey and Lime. Shape of a Warrior, a historical fiction novel for young adults, is set in the Caribbean in the pre-Columbian period. It features the lives of the Kalinago people of Hairun before the arrival of the Europeans. The story is based on my extensive research and my own conviction that the Kalinago people were not savages, as they have been widely painted, but rather were sentient beings who experienced the full range of human emotions, dreams, and challenges, albeit in a different type of society. In this excerpt I'm about to read, a teenage Kalinago boy named Pipo is teaching his friend, an adventurous girl named Yorubi, how to paddle a canoe at sea. Pipo, who is known for his embellished storytelling, is relating to Yorubi the story of his birth as they paddle along in the boat. Yorubi turned to watch Pipo as he worked the paddle like a stirring stick, making some forward strokes, some backward ones, and some slicing motions. She watched in admiration as he brought the boat almost to a standstill, then pointed the bow slightly toward the horizon. "This way we can tack across the big waves when they come," he said. "How did you learn so much about boats?" Pipo's brows flew upward. "You don't remember? Never mind, I'll tell you again." He cleared his throat. "When I was very little, my father took me out to sea to teach—" "Not that story again, you fabler," Yorubi batted at him with her paddle. Pipo reared back, a broad grin on his face. "That's for paddling the boat, not for beating people," he said. Yorubi shook her head and turned to the front again, dipping her paddle into the water with fluid strokes. "I still want to hear the story," she called over her shoulder. There was silence for a while, except for the slap of the waves against the side of the boat, the distant voices of the boys, and the occasional screech of a seagull overhead. "My father damaged his leg when he was a boy, and he couldn't become a warrior because he couldn't walk straight." "Far less run," Pipo said behind her, his usually lilting voice sounding flat. He started spending more and more time in the sea, swimming as far as he could, diving near the reefs and rocks, and learning about the creatures under the water. He became so good at fishing that his family was eating better than those who had hunters to bring home meat. Wasn't long before he began making his own boats, and when he asked to take my mother as his wife, her family eagerly said yes. Pipo gave a short laugh. I bet they didn't think she'd end up spending almost all her time at sea with him. I was born at sea, somewhere between the Isles of Bekoya and Canoan. Yorubi twisted around to chide Pipo again for making up parts of his stories, but he was gazing unseeingly at the horizon with not even a hint of a smile on his face. Facing the bow again, Yorubi wondered why Pipo seemed so gloomy. His family's life sounded like her dream, building boats and sailing off to other isles. "They washed me in the ocean and kept going till they came to a tiny cay where the fishing was good and the waters were placid," said Pipo. "They stayed for 3 whole moons." Yorubi turned again at the hint of sadness in Pipo's voice. He was still staring out to sea, his eyes brooding, his arms walking the paddle rhythmically. "Not that I was on land the whole time. People laughed dryly. They said I'd already learned to swim in those tranquil waters by the time they were ready to leave. But what about the birth ritual, said Urubi. How could your father go into retreat and fast and all that? My father, he doesn't bother about things like that. My mother either. She didn't even bother to shave my head when I was a baby. I don't feel so bad about it anymore though. On our trips from one place to another, I've seen other boys like Alu with round foreheads. Some girls too. We have traveled up, down, and around these islands like no other family I know. The 3 moons we spent on the little isle after I was born were the longest I'd ever been on land. People sounded morose. Before this last stay in Yambo, I mean. Urubi looked out across the ocean, seeing in her mind the family camping by themselves on the beach, the tiny babies splashing in the water, the boat sitting on the sand waiting to take them wherever they chose. Born in a boat, she said, trying to make people smile. I don't know anyone else like that. The water spirits must claim you as their own. Don't you start, said people. That's my reading from my young adult historical fiction novel, Shape of a Warrior. Now, in keeping with People's Castaway Tale and also with the theme of Heritage Month, I'd like to read a poem from my collection, Honey and Lime. This poem is about breaking the bonds of colonialism, and it is titled On the Outside. When they drew the line, did they have me in mind? Did they think that I would try to climb their thick, cold skin or long to be inside? Did they think that I would hold my need outstretched before me and rattle discordant smiles as they tossed me cold leftovers of their murderous past? If they should ever find a crack in their fear through which they could peer, they would see that my bare feet fit snugly in the earth, that the sun runs happily through my pores, frolics in my eyes, and sleeps in my heart. They would see my hands giving life to this land, and every tree under which I stand bowing low to shelter me. They would see me rise from the mist of my indulgent seas and curve eagerly into the familiar arms of the wind, which slips the ocean from my shoulders and unashamedly worships this naked skin. When they built their walls and wired them with lies, did they think that my children would inherit their jails? That's the end of my presentation for today. Honey and Lime is available in both print and Kindle format on Amazon marketplaces worldwide, and so is Shape of a Warrior. That novel is also available at Jujube Bookstore in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Thank you for watching and listening.